Hundreds of thousands of British holidaymakers are desperately trying to return home to the UK after the government imposed quarantine measures on France and 5 other countries, taking effect in just under 6 hours' time. Travellers will have to self-isolate for 14 days as the French Prime Minister acknowledged the number of coronavirus cases in the country was going the wrong way. The current rate of infection in France is 34 cases per 100,000 people. In the Netherlands, one of the other countries taken off the UK travel corridor list, the current rate of infection is 41.6 cases per 100,000. And in Malta, also removed from the list, the rate is 84.1 cases per 100,000. The UK, by comparison, has 17.3 cases per 100,000 people. Well, let's get the very latest now from France and our correspondent Lucy Williamson, who's live in Calais. Lucy.
Well, the race to get home is continuing here through the night. Eurotunnel are running shuttles right through till tomorrow morning, but they are all now booked up until Sunday. The short window for British tourists here is closing. The countdown began this morning at France's ports. Thousands of British tourists beating the deadline for quarantine. In Calais, Eurotunnel told us their shuttles were fully booked, despite running extra trains at peak times.
We decided to try and book a ferry, cancel our holiday and come home to avoid it.
I think it's very sudden. I think it could be a bit more gradual, maybe a bit more notice.
I've driven for, 11 hours with breaks, so, getting back to make sure that I don't have to self-isolate. That's it, really.
August is a busy time at the border anyway. The race to escape today, less noticeable here than online.
It was only literally 15-20 minutes. I think we were 852nd in the queue. I made sure we got our booking and our friends were in the cottage behind us, and within 10-15 minutes they were over 5,500 in the queue.
Reserving a slot was only half the battle.
OK, so we now think we can't make the Roscoff ferry, so we're going to have to try and travel to see if we can go to Calais.
The Cuthbert family missed their ferry crossing this morning, but they did manage to get across from Calais. At the other end of the country, in Nice, passengers complained of long queues at the airport.
Unfortunately, because of the quarantine, we've had to cut short our holiday. Really disappointed with the UK government response. They could have given us a bit more than 24 hours notice.
And at Gare du Nord in Paris, some Eurostar passengers turned up on spec to try and find a seat home.
We're supposed to do a couple of days in Paris, but trying to find a way to get home before the quarantine.
Well, we'd already changed our trains like twice to try and avoid anything happening, and it's happened anyway.
The UK's decision on quarantine wasn't unexpected. Many tourists had already factored in the possibility that they might have to isolate when they got home. And Eurotunnel says many of its customers are choosing to simply stay on to the end of their holiday.
Of course, it hasn't stopped travel in the other direction. We're still seeing people coming to France and going on holiday. We're seeing cars with, bicycles on the roof, so it's absolutely clear they're holiday makers.
Today, France declared the regions around Paris and Marseille high-risk zones. The national infection rate has risen to 34 cases per 100,000.
As we were literally just about to put the cases...
That didn't worry Paul Howard and his family, who were due to leave for France today.
Going to put the cases into the car and then got the breaking news, knowing that we would definitely have to quarantine. My son had missed 2 weeks of school. I had concerns around insurance. In the end, we knew that there was only one decision to make, but it's just so disappointing.
There are now just a few hours and just a few ferries left until the deadline passes. After that, the journey across the Channel will mean an hour at sea, another 2 weeks at home. Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Calais.
Well, our correspondent Gavin Lee is in Dieppe, where the last ferry tonight to the UK leaves in less than 2 hours. Gavin, we can see the queues of cars behind you. How big a rush has it been for Brits trying to get out of France?
Well, we've heard so many stories. The BBC has been inundated today with tales of odysseys up to 11 hours from all parts of France to get to the northern port to try to get the ferries behind me. Dieppe is an interesting drama playing out in itself behind. Pretty much all of these people are British tourists who are trying to get back before the 4 o'clock deadline. This last ferry they're waiting for is the 11:59 ferry that's due to get in at 4 o'clock in the morning or thereabouts. Now, DFDS, the company that are operating this, have actually tried to get legal advice. Does it mean that they can get into British territorial waters, or do they have to dock? The legal advice back is they have to dock, and we've been told that the captain on board is keeping his eye on the watch to get them in before 4 o'clock. Briefly as well, Clive, the dynamics of all of this, because bear in mind in COVID times, the way the ferry operators have been working around 50% capacity to make sure there's enough social distancing. Well, they've sold out in Dieppe, in Calais, in Dunkirk around 1:30 this afternoon, up until tomorrow afternoon, we're told. And what they've done is they've emptied and closed some of the restaurants to give people more space. They're saying they can still socially distance just about, but they're allowed to bring more people home as a result.
OK, Gavin, thank you for that. Gavin Lee with the very latest there from Dieppe.